In 1982, Mattel Electronics released Night Stalker on the Intellivision. Though the game resembles Berserk, this is only a superficial resemblance. Like Berserk, Night Stalker is about a guy running around a maze and shooting at robots, but that's where the similarity stops. As you play, you're trapped in a dark maze with a variety of enemies, each of whom has a very particular way of making your life miserable. What's worse is that your gun can only hold 6 bullets, and you don't even start out with it. You have to find your gun before you can fight back. After you fire your 6 bullets, your gun is rendered useless and you have to pick up another gun elsewhere on the screen. Depending on what you read or listen to, the game either takes place in a hedge maze or a cave, but the game box makes it look like you're running through a futuristic setting. I prefer to think that this is a hedge maze, and even though I know that this idea is ludicrous, I like to imagine that you control Jack Nicholson's character from The Shining, and that he was able to thaw out during the spring, and he still can't find his way out of the maze. With games this simple, you need to use your imagination, and sometimes you can create an even better game that way. As Jack Nicholson runs around the maze, bats, spiders, and the Lost in Space robot torment him to no end. The bats cause no physical damage, but they knock you over, rendering Jack helpless for a few seconds. The spider behaves similarly, but he tends to hang out in his web during the early part of the game. The web won't hurt you, but it slows you down and renders your weapon useless while you're in it. The robots are the worst, not only because they're smarter and faster than the other enemies, but because they are upgraded when you reach certain levels. The sadistic snowman robot even has a shield, making you shoot it 3 times before it dies. As the game goes on, the enemies respawn faster, and once you reach 5,000 points, if you kill a bat, that bat is replaced by a robot. Fortunately, there's a bunker in the middle of the maze for Jack Nicholson to hide in, where he's relatively safe from the Lost in Space robot and Jack Frost. Consulting the overlay for the controller, you can see that the firing controls and difficulty selection are a little strange. The 4 difficulty levels are chosen not by pressing 1 through 4, but by pressing 3 through 1, or enter. Jack Nicholson can only fire in the 4 cardinal directions, achieved by pressing the corresponding buttons on the numeric keypad. One of my problems with this game is that the design is a little sloppy regarding Jack Nicholson respawning in his bunker. Later in the game, your bunker is surrounded by robots, making it very difficult to run to the other side of the map, outrunning robots that can move faster than you to pick up your gun and fight back. My biggest complaint with this game, as well as most action-based Intellivision games, is that you can't fire while running. Instead, you have to come to a stop, fire, and then move out of the way. Even though this is a design flaw, it ends up working in the game's favor, as it's very effective in shifting the gameplay from run-and-gun shooter action to a more strategic game of cat and mouse, and also cat and probably a dog. The strategic element of this game is what really hooked me. It's like the thinking person's Berserk. Going in with guns blazing will result in you dying quite often. So to defeat your enemies, you have to plan your ambush and lure the baddies into your trap, making sure to allow yourself multiple avenues of escape, because if you can shoot the robots, they're going to shoot you first. Given that each weapon can only have 1 bullet on screen at a time, and that your bullets travel about as quickly as a blast from the quad laser, strategic thinking is essential. As I play Night Stalker, I notice Jack Nicholson's walk cycle is kind of funky. The more I think about it, I don't think this is Jack Nicholson. This is John Travolta. Another thing I've noticed is that the robots will sometimes kill the bats, which is particularly aggravating after you pass the point at which bats respawn as robots. Something I stumbled across while playing is that you can hold a controller in each hand, using one to fire and the other to move. This allows you to shoot on the run, which injects a little bit of action into the game. But I get turned around and die constantly while playing this way, so I don't do that very often. I'm starting to think that this isn't John Travolta. A bat tripped me and I turned into all sorts of things, so this is a shapeshifter I'm playing as. But I guess that John Travolta is also a kind of shapeshifter, so it could still be him. How would I rate this game? The graphics are system appropriate and the design is well thought out in certain aspects pertaining to gameplay. The game is a blast to play and it only gets better with repeated exposure. On the downside, the design aspects regarding the control scheme and respawn weapon protocols need a lot of work. As far as sound is concerned, it can best be described as Spartan and monotonous. On a strictly technical basis, I'd give this game a 6 out of 10. Above average, but not great. On a personal basis, however, I'd strongly recommend this game to any retro gamers, or fans of arcade action titles. What a game. You play as a Jack Nicholson John Travolta shapeshifter, trying to escape the maze from The Shining while being pestered by animals, the Lost in Space robot, Jack Frost, and various other robots. But try as you might to escape, you realize that the only truly safe haven you have is behind you, into the mouth of madness, into your bunker. Is the only way we can eventually outwit our nightmares to embrace them, otherwise face an unending world of challenges? Is this shapeshifter the modern Sisyphus, doomed to wander the maze for eternity? Maybe. Or maybe this is just a game and I need to stop thinking about it so I can get back to work. I'm the dork with no name and I obsess over trivial matters.